السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. باب بر الوالدين وصلة الأرحام. We continue our book Riyad-us Saliheen by Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayh. This is the 40th chapter of the book, and the chapter is with regards to respecting and honoring our parents and keeping good relationship with our blood relatives. The hadith is when Abi Sufyan Sakhar bin Harb radiyallahu anhu في حديث الطويل في قصة حرقل أنه حرقل قال لأبي سفيان فماذا يأمركم به؟ يعني النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال قلت يقول اعبدوا الله وحده ولا تشركوا به شيئا واتركوا ما يقول آباؤكم ويأمرون بالصلاة والصدقة والعفاف والصلة أو كما قال رواه البخاري ومسلم. The hadith is reported by Abu Sufyan Sakhar bin Harb radiyallahu anhu. And this is just a small point to remember. The famous Sahabi, the famous companion that we all know, Abu Sufyan radiyallahu anhu. And of course his life, his history and legacy is so great, as Abu Sufyan radiyallahu anhu was the husband of a woman known as Hinda, who never accepted Islam till the victory of Makkah actually occurred. So Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu accepted Islam prior to the victory of Makkah. When Rasulullah sallallahu and the Sahaba were entering on the day of the victory of Makkah, Fatah Makkah, Hinda herself, she hid herself in her house. And she said, I don't want to see and face the Muslims. And I cannot. And she grabbed her husband by the shoulders and she shook him. And she says, you are a coward, na'udhu billah, that you left the religion of your forefathers. And she was the same woman that had taken the liver of Hamza radiallahu anhu on the battle of Uhud and bit it as well. So she locked her doors and she said, I don't want to see the faces of the Muslims. So when Muslims came and the victory occurred and the Muslims entered Makkah, in the middle of the night, she heard no noises, there was no dancing and singing, and there was no issues with regard to where one nation take over another nation. And she was surprised and she thought that no Muslims have come to the city of Makkah. So she secretly went outside, hiding herself. She came to the streets and she found the streets were empty. And she slowly walked and she finally reached the masjid, the Kaaba itself, Baytullah. And she saw the Muslims lined up around the Kaaba crying and praying to Allah with humility and with humbleness, saying, the famous dua of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where Allah subhanahu Rasulullah says, Anjaza wa'ada wa nasara abda wa hazama al-ahzaba wahda. The famous dua, that it is the amr of Allah and the hukam of Allah, that Allah gave us success. To the extent that ulama mentioned that when Rasulullah was entering Makkah, his forehead was touching the back of his camel known as al-qaswa, because of humility and humbleness, that this success was given only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when she saw this entire scenario, her heart melted. And she said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. She accepted Islam at that moment, looking at the akhlaq of Rasulullah. So her husband was Abu Sufyan, the great Sahabi, the great companion, Abu Sufyan radiallahu. But his name was not Abu Sufyan, his name was Sakhar. His name was Sakhar bin Harb. This is the name of Abu Sufyan radiallahu. So Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, who Sakhar bin Harb, في hadith al-Tawil, this is one of the longest hadith in al-Bukhari, but this is just a small portion of it. في قصة حرقل, in the story of Harqal, which is a man who was the king of his time, where the trade caravans were traveling, and Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, on behalf of the mushrikeen of Makkah, the pagans of Makkah, was traveling, and at that time he had not accepted Islam, and he was traveling to different areas to create this notion against Rasulullah in the minds of all the kings around Makkah, that this man is not a person of good character, he's taking us away from the religion of our forefathers. So in a long qissa, when Abu Sufyan, before accepting Islam, Abu Sufyan Sakhar bin Harb, he said, when I reached Harqal, and I had a conversation with him with regards to Muhammad he said, فَمَاذَا يَأْمُرُكُمْ? So you're talking about this man Muhammad who comes to your area, takes the people away from the religion of your forefathers, but what is he teaching? Tell me something about his teachings. What does this man teach you that you have come all the way here to talk about him? Yani an-Nabiya sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning Muhammad, regarding Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قال قلت يقول, he said, I told, meaning this is Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu saying pre-Islam, I said to Harqal, this man Muhammad sallallahu teaches us and says, U'bud Allah, worship Allah, wahda, only, do not worship anything except Allah. وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, do not ascribe any partners unto him. وَاتْرُكُوا مَا يَقُولُ آبَاؤُكُمْ. And he said, Abu Sufyan radiallahu anhu, after accepting Islam, he said, this was the worst thing that I could have said at that time, because I knew that this man was full of great life and I couldn't lie against Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, even though there was no person on the face of this earth that I disliked more than him at that time, but because of his character, I knew that I could not say anything, because he was the man with the most fine character. Even his enemy could not choose any words to say against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Abu Sufyan said, the worst thing that I could say about him at that time was, he's teaching us to leave the teachings of our forefathers. I mean, that was the worst thing in his mind he told Harqal at that time. So he said, worship Allah alone, وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا, do not worship anything. وَاتْرُكُوا مَا يَقُولُ مَا آبَاكُمْ, leave what your forefathers are teaching you. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالصَّلَاةِ, he orders us to make salah, وَالصَّدَقَةِ, charity, وَالْعَفَافِ, afaf means a chaste life, a noble life. Don't live a life of haram and evil and wrong and filth. وَصِلَةِ, and he teaches us to join relationships. Meaning he said, I couldn't lie. And of course, long hadith where Hiqqa said, there's nothing wrong with this, what man is teaching. If this man is teaching this, then he must be the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the reason why Imam al-Nawawi rahmatullahi brings this particular hadith is that when we look at the makarim al-akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it comes to his akhlaq and his manner, both salat, which is ibadah, and when it comes to his akhlaq, which is his mu'amalat, both were on the climax and the heights of his life. So both ibadat and mu'amalat, both actions, your worship and your dealings have to be according to the way of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a person feels that my ibadat is great, but if our mu'amalat and our interaction are not good, then we cannot have complete deen in our lives. Complete deen comes with the complete ittiba and the following of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When it comes to our lives, when it comes to, may Allah forgive the debts, when it comes to celebrations, when it comes to our lives, everything has to surround according to the teachings of Rasulullah. Forgive me for this hard statement, but it cannot be when it comes to my own way of life. Yes, Islam is there, but I'll make my own decision the way that I want to celebrate my life, or I want to live my own life the way that I want. So it's very, very important for us that we choose and we select the life of Rasulullah as the greatest example to the day of Qiyamah. And that's why Imam al-Nawawi rahmatullahi brings this hadith, that even when it came to the enemies pre-accepting Islam, when they looked at the life of Rasulullah, they could never say anything except for khair in his life. And one of the greatest khair was silatul raham, joining of relationships. May Allah give us tawfiq and ability to live our life with the Quran and Sunnah. Inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi.